made Ellen DeGeneres a cover girl, created the E-Trade baby, paired that torch with a milkaholic that caused Lindsay Lohan to sue the agency, and resurrected the creative reputation and operating profits of a nearly century-old ad agency, Grey, New York. I'm talking about none other than the creative genius Tor Myhren, who took the challenge of bringing to life once again a sick and creative deficit agency. Well, I caught up with Tor to get a sense of what his magic ingredients were. Listen in. Thank you so much for joining us, Tor. Truly a pleasure to have you on Brand Equity.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
So, we've heard so much about you and how you've just ensured that Grey, which was known to be a creatively redundant kind of agency, and it's become a hot shop of sorts. What was your thinking? What was your own perception of Grey at that point in time, and what were the first few things you did when you came on board?
Well, my perception was in New York City, it was a pretty bad agency. It was actually one of the worst. So all my creative friends thought I was crazy when I went there. But when I took over there about 5.5 years ago as Chief Creative Officer, my goal was first and foremost to fundamentally change the culture of the place. It just had to change. And, people say, does the work lead the culture, or does the culture lead the work?
Right.
I believe the culture leads the work. So we had to get the culture right. And we really just, from day one, sort of infused creativity through everything we did. And so when I became president about 3 years ago, I was able to really push that through. So when I talk about creativity, it really is not about the creative department, and it's not necessarily even about the ads we're creating. It's about taking on business challenges that our clients have and attacking them very creatively and coming up with very creative business solutions.
But when you say that, there was inherently a problem in the culture with Grey, what was the culture then, and how did you transform it, and what's the culture now?
I would say it was very, it was an account-driven culture, and it was, there really wasn't a whole lot of stress on creativity. It was also very uncollaborative. Okay, so everybody had their own office, they were isolated, they had the door closed, nobody was sharing information, nobody was sharing ideas, people were looking over their shoulders worried about who was going to steal their idea. So there wasn't a lot of collaboration, and so what we've done, we moved into a new building. Nobody, including myself, has an office, so it's totally open.
Wow.
And, I really believe that ideas are like living organisms, and when you put walls around them and doors around them, they can't grow. When you take those things away, then the ideas can just go from one person to the next and get bigger. So,
in the foreseeable future, we will see you take on larger global roles where you'll actually possibly look at rejuvenating Grey as a global agency, because globally the perception is still not great.
You're right, and yes, in time I will definitely be doing more global. Whether I do a full-on global role, I'm not sure yet. But I'm actually, this year I've already started to travel a lot more and go. I was in Singapore recently. I was in Beijing. So I did some travel through Asia. I'm going to be in Turkey in about a month. So I'm going to specific offices and sitting down with not just the creative group, but sitting down with the entire office and sort of helping them each office map out a blueprint.
If you're taking on a more global role, then you're no more going to be just Chief Creative Officer and President of Grey, New York.
It's a good question. I haven't really decided yet. I mean, right now, what Jim and I have agreed to is that I'm visiting a lot of offices, and I'll spend a few days with them and really work almost like a consultant.
So why would you do a global portfolio in trying and rejuvenating Grey for nothing, right?
Right.
So we will see possibly some kind of elevation happening for you.
Probably.
I want to talk about the Gillette pitch.
Yeah.
Because that was a big coup. How did you manage that? I mean, give me the story.
I can't give you the whole story, but I can say that it was 5 agencies, as you know, and some of the best agencies in the world were in that pitch. And it was a long pitch. It was almost 7 months long. Usually they're only a month or two, right? So you have that intensity, and then you can hold on to it for a month or two, and then you're wiped out. This was 7 months, and you had to stay on. You had to keep that intensity super, super high. And so there was a lot of peaks and valleys throughout the pitch, right? There were times when I thought we were really, really great, and then some things happened along the way that also worried me. But I think it was, honestly, number one, they bought an idea. And so that's always great when you come out of a pitch that big and they actually bought the work that you presented. And I think they bought the team. For our office, that globally, really, that changes things. You know?
Exactly. So my question is, okay, I still get it that, they like you, they like your team.
Yep.
That's broadly New York.
Yep.
How did you manage it to become a global hit?
Midway through the pitch, I think sometime in January or February, they changed the pitch to become a global pitch. So it was originally just going to be U.S.
Yeah.
And then about midway through, I think they realized that they wanted it to be global. And so they announced that. They said, this is now a global pitch. But to your point about how we actually managed the pitch, what's really interesting is we were using our best talent, even from the beginning, from all of our different offices, from our key offices, right? So we had some really great thinking come from London, some great thinking come from Brazil, some great thinking come from China. And then I think once it came to the actual executions, we did most of that out of New York. But as far as the early stages, we had really good thinking from all over the world. And I think that helped when they changed it into a global pitch because we already had sort of the global perspective on it.
You've mentioned publicly before the difference that people need to get between technology and a person, and that one should not get so overawed by the kind of technology we have today in terms of access. Do you think this is a common problem in the advertising world today, that we just have so many things to dabble with that
right.
we forget about the core of why we're doing this job, which is advertising?
Yeah, well, I can't remember who it was, that said, just because you can use it doesn't mean you should,
Yeah.
To answer your question, I actually think we've seen a bit of an arc. I think that there was a few years ago, I think our industry was very, very lost. And I think that the big ideas were smaller.
Okay.
Because I think we relied so much on the technology and we looked for the answer. There was something new coming out every year. So it's like the big idea is Facebook. The big idea is mobile. No, those aren't the big ideas. Those are medias, right? So, and I think that we did get lost for a few years. And I think the work suffered. I mean, if you really look at it, I think the work did suffer. And I think now the industry's got its swagger back. I think we've sort of all realized that really what matters first and foremost is that giant, juicy idea.
Thank you so much, Tor. Truly a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. It's been really, really great conversation. Thanks for your time.